Warrant review, town meeting preview for the Saturday, April 2nd, 2016 annual town meeting. I'm Bob Price, member of the League of Women Voters of Westford, and I'm here today with Jody Ross, Westford Town Manager, and Kelly Ross, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. We're here to discuss some of the more interesting articles on the warrant for the upcoming town meeting, but there are 27 of them and we don't have time to discuss them all, so we've decided to pass over the least controversial articles and concentrate on those that are more complex. So bypassing the acceptance of town reports and so on, let's go to Article 5 and talk a little bit about the senior officers' settlement.
Sure. In our police department, we have patrolmen and sergeants that are in a Westford Patrol Officers Association, and we have a Superior Police Officer Association, collective bargaining unit. And that is for our lieutenants, our captains, and our deputy chief. There are 7 people. We were not able to reach a contract settlement with that union for fiscal years 14, 15, and 16, and we've been bargaining, we bargained for well over a year. When you can't reach a settlement with the police or the fire, they have the opportunity to go to what's called the Joint Labor Management Committee, which is part of the Department of Labor Relations. They did that, and we went through mediation. We were still not able to reach an agreement, and so it went to the Joint Labor Management Committee for an award. We just received our award, which is basically what the contract will be. And basically the terms, I do have this document up on the town meeting website, but the terms are pretty much represents a 4-2-2 for wages for those 3 fiscal years. There are some language changes in the contract, and the big sticking point was that the police officers, the superiors, wanted to be paid for holidays, and they don't work holidays. They do get paid now for holidays, but they wanted to be paid twice for holidays. That does happen in the fire department and in the lower police union, but primarily that's because they rotate through the shifts, so they do work holidays. And that was the big sticking issue. They asked for 11, and the JLMC awarded them 6. So this settlement will be $212,000, and it will be retroactive to the first day of the contract.
So the draft warrant the draft motions document will be reworded in time for town meeting?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to Article 7, the capital appropriations. The only one that caught my eye was the deputy fire chief vehicle.
Yeah, last year in the budget we added a deputy chief, but did not add a vehicle for the deputy chief, so this kind of completes the process of providing a vehicle.
This is basically his office on wheels.
Exactly.
It contains things like building layouts, hazmat information for fires.
Sure, it contains everything he would need to do the job on the road.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just your run-of-the-mill vehicle. I'm sure it's...
And I gather this vehicle actually stays with him. It goes home with him, so if he has to go directly to a fire from home, he doesn't have to come back to Westford Center to pick it up.
I think that's the case.
You know, I honestly, we haven't really discussed that at this point.
All right, I cheated. I talked to Joe Tarr.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, that would make sense. He does live in Westford, but it contains all the equipment he needs. It actually has a partition that rolls right out of the vehicle that has all the equipment that they need. So it's not just a pickup truck.
Yep. And further down, there's something under the water enterprise section, which talks about Main Street water distribution system improvements.
Right, and this we can combine it with a discussion about the Main Street reconstruction. There are very old water mains on Main Street that are in dire need of being replaced. This is a priority of the water department, and so they want to replace the water main from where Main Street intersects with Depot to Tadmuck Road. The thinking, though, is in order to do that, you have to rip up the road. There are sections of the road that are in serious need of repair, and so it would be most cost-effective to do both of those projects at the same time. So this is both replacing the water main and rebuilding the road.
I gather the water department and the highway department have been trying to work together like this, coordinate their activities so that the water department doesn't dig up a freshly paved stretch of road.
This is something I have to give credit to Jody and John Mangiarati, assistant town manager, and town staff. It used to be the case that we might not have coordinated those projects so well, but it's been a point of emphasis in recent years to do that, and that's resulted in significant savings for the town to do those projects at the same time.
Less inconvenience also for the residents.
That's true, yes.
And the third motion under this article has to do with some sidewalk construction.
Yes, we've been wanting to enhance public safety and public health by a number of things, but sidewalks are a main contributor to that. And the top priority for sidewalks is in vicinity of schools. And so the Navnasset School on Plain Road currently has a sidewalk that extends down one way on Plain Road, but not the other. And
to the east, but not to the west.
Right, to the east, but not to the west. And so this would extend the sidewalk to the west in the vicinity of the Navnasset School.
Okay, let's jump ahead to Article 9, which has to do with authorizing the selectmen to sell the town farm.
Yeah, so this building is in serious need of repair and upgrade. It has a cesspool. It has structural problems that are of concern. We recently moved the recreation department that had been living there to a variety of places due to concerns about the building. And so it's the estimate for addressing all the issues with the building is around $3.7 million. And even if we did that, it's still probably not an ideal location for a recreation department. So the thinking is it does have historical significance. If we could sell the building, ideally with a historical preservation restriction on it, to someone who would save the building and find a good reuse for it, that would be a good thing to have happen.
Right. Good. Article 11, community preservation articles, recommendations. The only one that caught my eye was the bottom one, the $270,000 award to the Historical Commission, who wanted to fund design fees associated with the rehabilitation of the Rodenbush building.
Previously, we had design money to look specifically at safety items like fire escapes, that type of thing.
Sprinklers.
Right, exactly. But in doing that work, discovered that there are many more serious problems that need to be addressed, and so this is to do the design work to address those problems. It should be noted that the final work, if we undertook it, would be a substantial amount of money. It's very early, so any number you put out there is very preliminary and subject to change, so I wouldn't want anyone to get locked in with this is the number, but the number we heard was $7 million to do the complete renovation and repair and upgrade.
Okay. Then we come to Article 17, which is a citizen petition from our friend Chaitanya Hiramath, who is back again with his world flag resolution. This is for the third time, I think.
This is the third attempt. He has made changes with each attempt. At one point, he had wanted the flag to be, the world flag to be adopted by the town and flown on town common for a day. Now he's not really asking the town to fly the flag. His resolution is that the voters of Westford adopt the flag, recognizing the flag as a symbol of inclusiveness that signifies we all share the planet, and asking for no more than that.
Yeah. So those who voted on this issue last time should really go back and read the wording in this form to see what it is now as opposed to what it was then.
Right.
Okay. And Article 19 authorized the Board of Selectmen to acquire easements for Main Street improvements. This is apparently tied in with the earlier discussion about the water main replacement.
That's correct. In order to do this work, it might require some easements for doing the work, and also temporary easements for placing equipment and that sort of thing as the road gets worked on.
Okay. Article 20 is another citizen petition, this one from Dick Coleman, who is suggesting that town adopt a bylaw to prohibit the use of polystyrene food containers. Interesting presentation that we saw last week when he did his dry run. And again, I suggest that the voters really read the text here to see what he's saying, because this is something that's a little out of the ordinary from what we encounter at town meeting.
And this would have a wide effect. It would affect town departments, most notably the school department that serves a lot of food every day. But also it would affect town businesses and any establishment that uses polystyrene containers.
Article 21 is, looks like additional work on the sign bylaw.
The sign bylaw had significant revisions a few years ago. And since then, as it's been put into practice, they've come up with some language changes. They wanted, the planning board and planning department came up with changes to the bylaw that would better fit the functions they're trying to serve, and essentially just cleaning up loose ends and
Okay, so
things that
nothing
weren't quite
serious.
right. Correct.
Or as extensive as the last one was.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not a rewrite this time.
Okay, terrific. And flipping over to page 18, Article 22. This seems to have something to do with the asphalt manufacturing plant. What's the intent of this motion?
And we can talk about Article 23 at the same time. I think that they're both related to this. You might be aware that there is a proposal to have an asphalt plant in town that the planning board did not think was appropriate for the zoning in place. It's in litigation. It has been for quite a while. And to try to prevent any misunderstanding of our bylaw in the future, it was thought that they could clarify some of the language and the tables that have to do with what can be used there to specifically call out asphalt plants. It should be noted that this does not affect the current proposed asphalt plant that's kind of grandfathered in, but would affect any future proposal.
Right. And of course, you can't tell me how the litigation is going.
No, I can't.
As long as it's going. Okay, page 24. Article 24 is amend agricultural preservation restriction on the Drew's Garden parcel.
That's right. If you've driven by there in recent months or even longer, that property is not in a great state. The building has fallen into disrepair. Greenhouses are broken. You know,
the gateway to Westford is now the back door to Westford.
Yeah, it's kind of a kicked-in door to Westford. It is not very attractive right now. And if you think of the intent of the agricultural restriction, it was, for that property to be used for agricultural purposes, and there's not a whole lot of that going on right now either. So I know the property had been up for sale for quite a while. There wasn't a lot of interest in it. Recent attempts to run the farm stand garden center type operation there have not been successful. So the question became, what can we do? One option was the town, when it was put up for sale and when there was an offer, the town could have chosen to exercise its right of first refusal, but the selectmen did not choose to pursue that because of the cost of that. And then once you buy it, there's some renovation or tear down or whatever, and you have to find a use for it. But there was this proposal to allow a restaurant and function room to go there. So the selectmen went into a negotiation on that, formed a task force with a wide variety of points of view in the town to make a recommendation, and it seemed like this was a good compromise. It would restore the property to productive use. There would be a farm-to-table restaurant that would use vegetables and fruits grown on the property in the restaurant. There's an agreement with Springdale Farms to run the farming of the 2/3 of the property that would remain in agricultural use, with the other 1/3 becoming a restaurant. There was a financial component to this where the town would receive $50,000 for allowing the agricultural restriction to allow this restaurant, as well as adding a sidewalk along Boston Road along the frontage of the property. And that's estimated value of $200,000, but also importantly, we have a desire, as I talked about sidewalks earlier, to add sidewalks in key locations. And right now, we have a sidewalk that goes from the center of town down to Crown Road. And then it picks up again at 495 and goes to 110. And it would be highly desirable to connect the town center to 110 by sidewalk. And this particular parcel would do a great deal of that connection between the two pieces. So that would be a benefit to the town as well.
But it means taking the agricultural restriction off one of the three properties?
Not taking it, it affects one of the three parcels, so the other 2/3 of the property would still be for agricultural purposes. It doesn't take the agricultural restriction off, it just amends it to allow this particular farm-to-table type restaurant to exist on the parcel. So if someone wanted to put a car wash or a supermarket or a gas station, that would not be allowed. This is just amending the APR to allow this restaurant.
Offhand, do you remember how many cars were looking to park there?
I don't remember offhand, but something that's worth noting is this would still have to go through the planning board process, Conservation Commission, the Board of Appeals, and as a matter of fact, they had an initial joint boards meeting of those three boards to see the plans and start to think about all of those considerations about siting and parking and all of that.
Because obviously this will affect the neighbors. The poor people on Blake's Hill yet again will take a hit.
Well, I don't know if I would look at it that way. I think they're taking a hit right now by having broken down property that's, kind of fallen into complete disrepair right there, at least.
Granted.
And not having a functioning agricultural use there, but just having neglected fields there, I don't think is in the best interest of the neighborhood at all. But certainly they have concerns, and they will have every opportunity to speak to those concerns at town meeting. The selectmen, in fact, intentionally took an approach that would require it to go through town meeting to make sure that residents who live in the area and elsewhere in town can be heard on what their thinking is. And should town meeting approve it, again, it would go through the planning board and Board of Appeals and Conservation Commission, where residents again can express their opinions about how they would want the property to look and how the siting would happen and all.
Okay. Well, I guess that's where we decided we would stop. So let me just say that all that remains now is for you, the voters, to come to the Saturday, April 2nd annual town meeting. It'll be held at the Abbott School Gym beginning at 10 a.m. Note that a boxed lunch will be served on Saturday in the adjacent cafeteria during the lunch break. If we run out of time on Saturday, the adjourned meeting will reconvene on the following Monday evening at 7 p.m. In the meantime, be sure to look at the Finance Committee report and recommendation booklet, which should have arrived in your mail. It's interesting reading, and even if you don't read it, please remember to bring it with you to the town meeting, because there's information here that will be necessary for you to understand all the motions that will be presented. The motions document, of course, will be handed out at town meeting as usual. And finally, thanks to Jody Ross and Kelly Ross for participating in this warrant review, which was sponsored by the League of Women Voters as part of their educational program. And thanks to you, the voters, for watching. The League encourages all of you to come to the annual town meeting and to participate in your role as legislators in our open meeting form of government. Open town meeting form of government.